All right, we ready?
I'm ready, bitches. Whether it makes you laugh, cry, scream, or fly, there's a song for every emotion. We are Mike and Priya, and we talk about the songs that make up the soundtrack to your life. Because life is, where is it at, Mike?
It's in the lyrics.
That's right.
Hey, little listeners, welcome back to Life is in the Lyrics, where we discuss the role music plays in our lives, how it makes us happy, how it makes us sad, how it just...
Do you think everyone can tell that we've been drinking
I don't know.
already in the
Maybe.
first 10 seconds?
This is a bit of a hot mess right now.
Because we be drinking today.
Cheers.
Cheers, chin chin.
Chin chin.
Sante and kampai. Those are the only cheers.
What is Sante?
Sante is in French, like to your health.
Oh.
And kampai is what they say in Japan.
Ah. Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto.
That was a stupid song.
Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto.
Domo.
Domo. Moving on to
How has your week been?
How's my week been?
Yeah.
It's been good. It's been good.
Yeah?
It started out really quite busy. We were out for dinner with a friend on Monday night. We went to this relatively new place where the food was great, but they had lamb brains on the menu.
Ugh.
I've never seen that.
Did you try it?
I did not.
Did Dawn?
No. We're pretty adventurous in our eating, but that seemed to be a bit of a threshold for us. We couldn't do that.
Okay.
But you're a vegan, so you wouldn't even
I wouldn't
be
eat
interested
that.
in that.
No. Do you want to hear about my week?
Am I done? Are you done with listening to me?
I feel like we should get on to the topic because we have lots of good shit to talk about. But if
Okay.
you have anything more interesting to tell us about,
Yeah, I do.
please.
So one of the things...
No. I'm sorry. That was rude.
Yeah.
That's the Dubonnet talking.
Okay, I'm going to cut you off.
I just got this out of my head.
Oh my God, are you really drunk?
I'm tipsy already. I've kind of chugged half the drink so far because I thought it would be more entertaining to
geez.
start a little bit.
So,
tipsy.
well, okay. Well, listeners, what we're doing, it is that at the time...
No, we're going to get to that. Just follow the script. Continue telling us about your week.
No, I will, but I just thought I would share something with it.
About the booze? Because it's coming up.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So one of the things I've been doing this week is I thought, okay, well, we've got about 20 episodes that we've released.
Yeah.
So
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I know it is crazy. I know it is. And that's not including the episodes that we recorded when we were just developing this podcast. So I thought, well, I'll listen to what we have put out there in the podcast airwaves. I thought I'd go
to the beginning.
Yeah, and just get a sense of how have we developed?
Yeah.
What do we sound like?
Yeah.
Have we changed? Are we getting any better? Because I got to tell you, I've been getting a few messages here and there from people saying, I really like that last episode. You guys are really getting good. And I'm like, I'm going to take a listen to the back catalog and see. It's been
I love
interesting.
that we have a back catalog. I just got to say that.
Yeah,
Continue.
it is pretty great. But I will say that I think we have gotten better because we were a bit of a hot mess at the very beginning. Our little intro is a hot mess.
Is it really?
It is. I
Because
laughed.
it's the same script all the time. So how can it be a hot mess?
Well, it's a bit different. Like we were a little different. Our Instagram handle was different. The way we set up our intro episode, we were talking as if we decided to turn the mics on and then let's do a podcast. Well, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Well, how about this? How will people contact us? Well, what do you think about this? So it did sound a little
Manufactured?
Well, yeah. It just was a bit messy.
Yeah.
And, but I did.
Sorry, just got to have a sip of my gin and Dubonnet.
I'm going to have one. But did it make me laugh? It absolutely did. I was walking around laughing out loud. I think you and I are really funny.
Yeah. We've always thought we're very funny.
That's
And
true. We have.
it is very nice to now know that other people think we're funny.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Yeah.
so that's good.
Do they, though?
Well, if they're still listening, I guess
That's
they
true.
must.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that we've progressed and we've gotten better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we've gotten
According
better.
to-
Yeah. And according to some of the feedback that I've received from people. Yeah. But before we so there's
Okay.
two things. One, I wanted to say that I've been listening to the back catalog, and that's going to segue into our topic today.
Right.
But before we do that, I want to give a shout out to my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law who are
Okay.
traveling in Australia right now.
Ooh.
They're doing like a month-long travel.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and it's the end of the summer where they are in Australia right now. And it looks like from the photos that are being dumped into our family WhatsApp group, they're having a great time. So Elizabeth and Doug, shout out to you. Hope you're having a great time.
Yes.
And I hope that you're still listening.
Yeah, and stay away from all those
Sharks.
animals and things that can kill you, because
Snakes.
Australia is known to be inhabited by the most creatures that can cause bodily harm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I don't want to ever go there.
I don't want to go there.
One,
I've
it's
heard of
too
the
far.
spiders.
Have you seen the big tree crab spiders that
Yes.
climb the trees? Yeah.
I don't want to
Or
ever
the
experience
snakes.
that. And I'm not scared of spiders or snakes
I
in
am
real life.
scared. I don't like snakes.
Do you know that once when I went to Costa Rica, I had a 30-foot long anaconda on my shoulders?
No, thank you.
I will get that photo and we can post it.
Okay, let's do that because that would freak the crap out of me.
I can't still believe that I did that.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, yeah, put it on my shoulders. And I have
I'm
the
surprised
photo
it didn't
too.
try to eat you. You're such a tiny little
I know,
thing.
I'd be like a mice for it. Speaking of which, this is so random, but my cat, who's 19 and just had his
Casper.
checkup and was told that he is one of the healthiest cats, 19-year-old cats that she's ever seen.
That's nice.
So, but he's on a limited diet, like limited protein diet. So we're trying to figure out if he has some food allergies. So I've been trying to find non-typical proteins, like the proteins that are not in every other cat food. And one of the ones I found is mouse-based.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it sounds logical, but also terribly disgusting.
So as a vegan,
Yeah. This
do
is it's a constant issue for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like,
so
it's only an issue because I find it gross to look at and think of and smell. I have no issue feeding my dog and cat what they should be fed. But it's interesting to be known that my dog is on a different type of limited protein. She's on a limited...
you got some high maintenance pet.
Okay, I do just want to say that you're going to see in the photos, we're probably going to post a photo of my new haircut. I did my hair today. I've decided I refuse to pay $150 to get my haircut every...
I think we talked about this in the last episode, right? Like I was like, hey, your hair looks amazing. So what did you do? You went and butchered it.
Well, no. You
kidding.
said your hair is so long, and I said I just cut it, and I cut like 3 inches off, and so it was weird.
Show me what 3 inches looks like.
Like this much.
That's 6 inches.
That is not 6 inches. Believe me, I know what 6 inches looks and feels like. But I did realize that I gave myself a bit of a mullet, so I had to fix that.
Oh,
So I kind of redid it. And,
looks great.
Thanks.
Well, we'll do some beauty shots and post them to our
Thank
social.
you. Okay.
All right. So I also need to give a shout out to my nephew, Matthew, who celebrated his 21st birthday on St. Patrick's Day. So happy belated, Matthew.
Happy belated. And is he in Canada or the US? Like, is he?
He's in Canada.
Okay. So he's been able to drink for a while.
Yes, he has. Yes.
All right. Well, I raise my glass to you.
Let's cheers.
Yes, let's cheers
Cheers
to
to
that. Let's
Matthew.
chin.
This is a total
Oh my
mess.
God. Okay.
Going back to me listening to our back catalog.
Oh.
So listening
All
to
about Mike.
No,
Jesus.
well, listening to episode 2,
Uh-huh.
we talked about something that is directly related to our episode today.
And
Actually, 2 things came up in episode 2 that are
Okay.
directly related to our episode today.
Please share with everyone and myself.
You talked about going to the Niall Horan concert.
Could you please have some respect?
Niall
Niall Horan. I love him.
Slow hands.
Like a sweat dripping
We
off
talked about
our
that.
dirty.
Do you remember that?
Really?
Yeah.
It was that long ago. No, I remember talking about it. But I can't believe that it was way back in August.
Yeah. Wow. So we talked about that. And in the same episode,
We mentioned this band?
we mentioned the band that we're going to talk about.
That I don't remember at all.
And this album.
Oh
and
my
this
God.
concert.
Oh my God. Oh, okay. Okay. Cool. So Thank you, Mike, for that segue. I am delighted to tell everybody that in celebration of Irish Heritage Month and St. Patrick's Day,
I don't know if that's Irish.
That's not an Irish jig.
I don't know. I'm doing an Irish jig with my arms.
Are you, though? Okay. We thought we would talk about one of the best Irish bands and the best albums of all time. And if you haven't guessed it yet, that is The Joshua Tree by U2. Mike's tips.
Oh, and also because we love a good reason to perpetuate stereotypes, we're drinking during this recording.
Yeah.
I don't know if we should actually put that out.
I mean, I think we should. Let's just be honest about it. It's hilarious because the Irish are known to be good drinkers. And I'll tell you that I am not, because I'm already feeling it really strongly.
It's going to be a hot mess of an episode.
It is.
So, when we went to the Taylor Swift concert and Stephanie came with us.
Yes. We went to the Taylor Swift concert together?
Yeah, I know. It probably is not on your radar because you were so checked out.
Yeah,
Stephanie is married to a Irishman.
Okay.
And he's from Limerick.
Oh.
Limerick in Ireland.
Oh, he must get the worst jokes.
I don't know if he does, but he is such a sweetheart.
Mm-hmm.
He's got that beautiful Irish voice, and he's got that really Irish look to him. You know how there's the dark-haired, what's that actor's name?
Cillian Murphy?
No, dark hair.
Cillian Murphy, actually.
He was a hot Irish actor.
Oh, great. That narrows it down. Thank you very much. Oh my God. Are you actually looking up Irish actor who is hot and has dark hair?
Hot Irish actors. Colin Farrell, first one. Okay.
Okay.
So
Do you know that I saw him once in real life?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was going into the CAA building in LA because I had a meeting there to see if we could
don't
get.
Care. Just get.
For fuck's sakes! All right, and I passed him. He is very short.
Oh, really?
He's very short. He was wearing a leather jacket. Very good looking in person.
I was going to say, is he as good looking in person as he is?
Yep.
He's a hot Irish actor.
He is a hot Irish actor.
Okay, so there's that kind of Irish stereotype, right? Like the dark hair, the dark eyes.
Yeah.
And then Stephanie's husband is a hot Irish guy who's not an actor.
Okay.
But he's got that other look, that little bit of ginger, the blue eyes with the long eyelashes. And it's the accent. I love the Irish accent.
I do too. Irish and Scottish, love those accents.
Yeah.
Okay.
So back to
our episode. Yes.
Okay. So Priya, why are we doing an Irish theme?
Thank you for asking, Mike. We are doing it. Yes, I clapped my hands because I was going to say, let's see how long it takes for one of us to get sloppy. But I realized that happened for me 4 minutes ago. We're doing this because not only St. Patrick's Day, and actually I did mention this already, but since you never listen to what I say.
Oh, I wanted to tell you something else.
Oh my God. Here we go.
Okay. So in some of our earlier episodes, you said something and I
repeated it 20 seconds later.
No. I didn't remember you saying that. And one of the things I said I was going to do was to pay more attention and try and focus on what you said. And I fucking burst out laughing as I was walking, listening to that episode. I'm like, oh my God, even our second episode, I was saying that and I'm still not doing it.
Well, and I still cut you off. So nobody's perfect, right? Okay. I feel like we should just get started because I'm already trying very hard to focus. Okay. Let's get this act on the road here. I got my fingers snapping.
Yeah.
I am.
But before we do, have you ever been to Ireland?
No.
Hold on a second. Let's pull it back.
Yeah.
So I had asked you, why are we
doing this?
Yeah. And did you actually say something about it?
I sure did. I said, in celebration of Irish Heritage Month and St. Patrick's Day, we are going to talk about one of the best Irish bands and best album. I did say all of that.
I zoned out in a little bit of that. Okay. All right. So we're celebrating the Irish.
The Irish.
Are we going to do this all month or just this episode?
Well, just this episode. Now, we realize that this episode has come out a couple of days after St. Patrick's Day. But hey, most of you who celebrated that lovely occasion are probably still hungover. So you might even think it's the same day.
Yeah, you'll still be feeling the Irish buzz.
We're going to feel it all month long because I have to tell you, when I listened to this album again, I became obsessed.
Oh,
I do
okay.
that, don't I? I
You do that?
I do that.
You said do that.
I do that. I
You do
get
that?
obsessed. All right. So, Mike, first thoughts about this album when you listen to it?
All right. Well, first thoughts was it really took me back to a lot of my high school years.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this album came out when I was in high school.
Yep.
And then I was thinking, like, were there other Irish bands that I was into? And they weren't until later, like the Cranberries, Niall Horan.
Stop
I know.
saying it like that.
Westlife,
Oh, yeah.
they were Irish. Well, some of them were Irish. Sinead O'Connor.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was thinking about some of the other Irish bands. So when I think about U2, Joshua Tree, I absolutely love this album, and it was such an epic part of my high school experience. Remember, I had a poster of the Joshua Tree framed. I actually had it framed, and it was on my wall in my bedroom. And that was when I was in high school, and I actually took that with me to university. So I'm going to have to dig out some university photos and high school photos of that.
Yeah.
The other thing, so then I went to the concert, the Joshua Tree concert, and I mentioned that actually in episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the fall of 1987. I remember we took the bus from Burlington to Oakville, took the train from Oakville to Toronto. There's a whole group of us. It was, I remember it being a chilly night, but it was this like amazing experience because there was a group of us from high school. We were all like big fans of U2. And of course, this really was a soundtrack to, so 1987, I would have been I was in grade 12, so I was a senior. And so it brings a lot of memories like that.
Now, you might be surprised that I actually do remember you talking about that.
Oh, you do?
I do, because I remember that we were talking about the excitement of going downtown.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because even though I lived in Toronto, I lived in the suburbs. And so we still had to take the subway downtown.
Right.
And it was such a big thing. Like, we're going downtown.
Yeah.
So I remember you talking about that. And we were talking about our first concert experiences. I had the same reaction when I listened to the album for the first time after a long time. And I've heard, their songs are still played on the radio. When I listened to the album in preparation for this episode, and I listened to the album fully through, right?
Yeah.
The first song, the first even few bars hit me with a wave of nostalgia that was like a tsunami. It was almost overwhelming to me. It was like, oh my God.
I totally
high school.
remember that. Yeah.
And when you think of the first song, Where the Streets Have No Name, almost like a minute and 45 seconds or so is just music.
Yeah.
Before they even start
The
singing.
guitar riff.
Yeah, it's not even, it's just such a slow build. And to me, that song, it felt like the sunrise and the sunset. It felt like bookended by sunrise and sunset, musically speaking. And I just got really, really overwhelmed. And I think I even was talking to you on the phone and I said that and you're like, save it for the podcast.
Yeah.
Really emotional for me to listen to this and to think back about high school. That was
nostalgia.
Like the nostalgia and just the...
So I have a question about that song though. So I think for us, we're of a certain vintage where this was such an important part of that particular time in our life where we were, as teenagers, we were just starting to figure out our independence and we still had that safety net of our parents, but we were starting to figure out who we are and have connection to that early adult thinking.
You're echoing exactly what I thought as I was listening to this song.
Yeah.
So continue.
So when you think back to this album, and in particular this song, because this was the first song on that album.
Yeah.
Did you have a sense of what the meaning of the song was? And if you were to think back retrospectively, did you have an understanding of the meaning back then? And does it mean something different to you now?
Okay, so here's the thing. When I realize now, and I've realized actually as we've been doing this podcast, that so many times when I listen to music, I listen to the music and I may sing the lyrics, but I'm not digesting the lyrics. So with this song, when I looked at the lyrics, I was kind of, I was really like, I know the lyrics, I sing them all the time, but they hadn't necessarily
The
they hadn't
meaning hadn't registered for
they
you?
hadn't registered for me. There were words that I was singing without thinking of what I was singing.
Right.
And when I do think of that first verse, I want to run, I want to hide, I want to tear down the walls
that
hold me inside. That is high school,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it? Like
Mm-hmm.
the idea of just being in high school and wanting to break out of your own, like being free, like being your own person, not having the rules and the boundaries that your parents have set on you anymore because you can feel that you're growing up. This song made me think of that.
Oh, interesting. Sorry.
When I looked into what the actual lyrics meant, it's not about that at all.
No, it's not. No.
Yeah.
Well, that would be that would be a really interesting thing to explore for our generation, for people that were in their early teens or in their teens. It would be interesting to explore. Like we should ask some of our friends from our generation if they listened to this music, if they were a fan of U2, what was the meaning of this to them, because that I think is a really interesting take, because the lyrics do relate to that desire to
break free.
And it's like you're on the cusp of something.
Yeah.
But the song is really not about that, right?
It's not about that at all. And there have been kind of multiple layers of meanings. Where the streets have no name, it's actually about how it's kind of like talking about classist society.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting in reading that that's what the intention of the lyrics were.
Mm-hmm.
But even knowing that and reading the lyrics again, all I can feel is just that sensation of being in your teens and being not quite an adult, but ready to kind of break free from the shackles of childhood.
Yeah.
And it
resonated.
It really resonated. I don't know if it resonated back then. It resonates with me now, reading that and thinking about my younger self.
Yeah. I remember, so when I was in high school and this came out, the friend group that I had in my high school, we were a fairly small high school. I think we had maybe 600 people in my high school. Oh, that is small. So it was quite small.
Yeah.
And there was this guy that I was a friend with, and there was another person that was a year older than us that he was more close with. Grant and John used to DJ the school dances, and Grant was very, very into music. So he would make tapes for us, and he'd have this really kind of funky writing. He'd make all these kind of mixed tapes of different things. And he introduced me to and this friend group introduced me to a lot of different music. We would go to these alternative dances at local, community centers. He introduced me to NXS.
Yeah.
Loved that band as well.
Oh my God.
And he was a big fan of music. So he used to do these dances at our high school. And him and John, they were really into U2. And I remember John, it was the 80s. We all had mullets back then. But John...
I had one just last week.
Yes, true. In preparation for this 80s themed.
Totes.
Well, John had the hair for the Bono mullet.
Right.
Because you remember Bono had that kind of spiky front
I
and then the
loved it.
long straight. And I remember John had the exact same haircut, and he was like this. He just seemed so cool. And I thought Grant was really cool too. But when I think about this album and I think about that period in my life, these are the kind of things that come back to my memory. And I agree with you. I don't think that the meaning of this song as it was written, what it was written for, was something that I really resonated with or that I connected with. But it obviously meant something. I responded to it, and my peer group responded to it. I mean, we were just big fans. And I think, in retrospect, it must have had something to do with that feeling of the possibility of life and just that excitement of what's about to come or what's possible.
Yeah. It's so funny because, again, doing this podcast, it makes me realize that I have been such a lover of music, but I haven't really thought about the music that I love. And so it's been interesting to sort of re-examine some of the artists and some of the songs that I've really appreciated through a different lens, like trying to actually study them and see why. What was it about their lyrics or their singing or whatever
Yeah.
that resonated with me? And I have to say, with U2, first of all, before this album came out, like Rolling Stone had already declared them the band of the 80s
Yeah.
before this album came out.
Yeah. Well, there was the album before this, that was more of an album that I remember from my high school. Like,
Really?
well, not that I remember. It was one that I was a favorite, and it's called The Unforgettable Fire.
Okay.
And it was released in 1984. And there were so many songs on that album that just,
Like Sunday Bloody Sunday, was that on it?
yeah, and the name Pride in the Name of Love,
Yeah.
4th of July, their first song, A Sort of Homecoming.
Okay.
And you know it's time to go through the sleet and driving snow, across the fields of morning, lights in the distance.
I'll have to look for that one.
Oh, it's such an amazing song. And it's such a great way to open up their album. But again, then in Joshua Tree, they open up with Where the Streets Have No Name.
Yeah.
It's like Coldplay kind of reminds me of U2 in that their songs are anthemic.
Yes. And epic.
Yeah.
Very epic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Like some of these songs, like the first 3 songs, Where the Streets Have No Name, With or Without You, and
With or without you.
yeah, love that song. And I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Like 3 of the biggest songs you would think of when you think of U2. But what I loved so much, maybe I should say what I love so much now about this band that I didn't really register back then. Last week we were talking about faith. We were talking about religion and the importance of faith. And I feel like this is a band who exemplifies the beauty of faith, but with the ability to kind of still be very open-minded and accepting. You know, they are very religious, like they believe in their faith, but they're extremely socially conscious and political.
Are they all religious?
Well, I know Bono is.
Do you know that Bono's daughter is in that Netflix series with Nicole Kidman recently?
Yeah. Oh my God.
The daughter,
Eve Hewson?
yeah, that's his daughter.
She's
that's his last name.
amazing. She is amazing. Yeah, she is also on the show Bad Sisters, which is fantastic. And she's perfect in it. I had no idea that was her dad.
Yeah, that's his daughter. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Because I know his wife is Liv Hewson. I didn't connect the dots. That's very cool. But I do really appreciate this. And this is one thing where, you know, people always say like actors or musicians or whatever, they should stay in their lane. They shouldn't comment on politics and what's going on in the world. It's like, did they give in their human badge? Are they not allowed to have thoughts on what's going on in the world? And U2 is actually very political.
Yeah.
And very socially kind of conscious. I dig that so much about them.
Well, Where the Streets Have No Name, as you mentioned, I mean, that was about, from what I understand, it was inspired by Belfast, the kind of class system. As as you went up the hill, the houses got more expensive, and so the further up the hill, the more people would understand you were from a different class, or even from living on what side of the street. You know, the Catholic side versus the Protestant side. So their music has always been politically charged,
but
or influenced.
I feel like they're unique in that way. Like I personally don't know of many other bands, especially not today, whose music is extremely influenced by their social and political views. And I think that is very evident throughout this album. And I loved experiencing this album as an adult who can appreciate that about it, because I just didn't. I didn't get any of that when I was a kid.
Why don't you think, like, so I'm drawing a blank. I can't think of anything right now. And so I think Coldplay is definitely, they're influenced by political situations. I mean, their whole tour right now is environmentally focused.
Yeah.
So there is that.
But
maybe not as
pointed, I don't think. Like, I think a lot of artists talk about the environment and climate change and that might kind of be an overarching belief system that they hold, but it doesn't always come through in their lyrics. And I think on this album, so many of the songs are very much socio or politically related that it was kind of a revelation to revisit this album. And also I realized too that as a teenager, and actually I think in my whole life, I don't really listen to albums except with Taylor Swift. Okay, let's just put my bias out there. I listen to songs on the radio and I think, oh, I love that song, and then I'll listen to other singles that come out, but I don't ever say, oh, I love that song, Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo, and now I'm going to listen to her whole album. I just don't do that.
Yes, you do.
I don't.
And it's actually recorded on our podcast that you do that.
Are you talking about Sabrina Carpenter?
Shawn Mendes?
Oh, yes.
Post Malone?
Yes.
Do I have to keep going on? Like, you do that.
Okay.
You do listen to full albums.
Okay. That may be a more recent development. But I think pre-podcast, I just didn't do that.
Oh, okay.
And so for me, listening to this album, I was listening to some of the songs for the very first time. So should we go through some of the other songs or lyrics that resonated with us?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
And just as you're doing that, and I want you to drink more of your drink. I'm trying very hard to focus right now.
Okay.
I want to say about Bono's voice.
Oh,
it is well documented that Bono had no vocal training for
really?
most of his career.
I didn't know that.
Yep. But listening to his voice on this album, there is like a plaintive quality to his voice, as if he's searching for something. Like there's just such a yearning in his voice and urgency that really, again, felt.
Listen to you.
It felt so high school to me.
Yeah.
It's like, I just want to experience the world. Like, what is out there for me? What is my life going to be like?
Well, how old were they when they started this band?
So Bono was about 16 years old when he first kind of got together with some of the key members of his band.
So I think I read that Bono and The Edge were in school together.
Okay.
And so they would like muck around with music.
Yeah.
Like when they were in high school.
But still, like 16.
So they were
young.
quite young. Yeah.
So it makes sense that he hadn't had any vocal training.
1976 is what the Tinternet says.
That was when I was 4 years old.
14-year-old drummer Larry Mullen Jr. posted a note to his school's notice board asking for musicians to create a new band.
Hey, did you know that Bono was in the movie Across the Universe, which is based on a bunch of Beatles songs? Did you ever see that movie?
No, I didn't.
It's an incredible movie, very visually beautiful. It's an amazing movie with Jim Sturgis and Evan Rachel Wood. And it's all based on Beatles songs. They kind of use the Beatles songs to create a storyline.
Yes, I did see that movie.
Yeah, and he was in it. And he sings I Am the Walrus in that.
Oh, wow. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I just thought it was such a cool cameo, so I wanted to mention that. Let's go through some of the other songs. Are there any lyrics that kind of stuck out for you here?
Well, there's so many songs on this album. Where the Streets Have No Name, With or Without You, In God's Country, One Green Hill. I still haven't found One Tree Hill, sorry. Yep. One Green Hill.
Okay.
And I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, those songs, they're all, I should actually.
Well, if you mention some of the songs, I probably have some of the lyrics that I can talk about.
Okay. So, In God's Country.
I don't have lyrics for that one. I do have for One Tree Hill.
Do you know the Canadian connection with this album?
No.
Daniel Lanois.
Nope.
Daniel Lanois.
Well, okay, what about him? Did he produce
He's Canadian. Yeah, he produced it.
Okay. I had no idea about that.
Yes.
That's cool. So one of the songs that I had not heard before, Mothers of the Disappeared.
That was on this album?
Yes. Did you listen to the whole album?
I did, but let me just play this because I don't, maybe I know the song, but I don't remember the tune. Oh, shit.
So Mothers of the Disappeared. This song, when I listened to it and actually listened to the lyrics, I felt it in my core. It was like a twisting, like a...
Why?
Just, it's like being on a roller coaster of emotion because it's written about the disappeared children in Chile. But when I read the lyrics and listened to it, it could have been written about the residential school system. So some of the lyrics that really stood out for me, in the trees our sons stand naked, Through the walls, our daughters cry. See their tears in the rainfall. And all of the lyrics, it was really moving, like about all these children that were just stolen from their families. So that song, which I had never listened to before, was quite an emotional one for me.
So there's this article that I read. It's an essay written by Stephen Catanzarite.
Mm-hmm.
And so it talks about the album, The Joshua Tree.
Okay.
And there's this paragraph that he kind of describes something about. So he says, the music of the Joshua Tree transcends the time and place in which it was created, set against the backdrop of an America that is at once awe-inspiring in its expansiveness and beauty and confounding in its contradictions and distortions. The songs explore both the gleaming heights of the American idea, President Reagan's shining city on a hill, where the creative energies of the people are called forth in and through freedom, and the desperation, loneliness, and sorrow found in America's valleys and shadows. The American paradox, a place where love is being both built up and burned down, is plainly laid out in the panoramic opener, Where the Streets Have No Name. And then it goes on. And so it is interesting that you're talking about the lyrics of these songs and how they can relate to not just through the American lens, but also through the lens of the life that we live in. And we live in Canada. We had a residential school system. We have our own issues.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing that I found when I was reading about it is that they had a lot of difficulty with several of the songs on this album. They re-recorded, they played around, they considered scrapping a lot of the songs that are the epitome of this album, like With or Without You. And they considered scrapping a lot of them, and I just found that.
Why With or Without You?
Bono thought about calling the record pressing plant to stop production. Too many mistakes, he thought. Too many wrong moves. So they were second guessing, and they were
even up to the time that the album was being printed.
Yeah, they were really second guessing themselves so much on this, which to me just seems crazy because it's an amazing album, and the songs that they were having so much difficulty with in terms of the musicality and the lyrics, those are some of the biggest songs off the album. So it's just so fascinating to see how artists can constantly second guess themselves, or they just want to put out something that is the epitome of what they wanted to express in that given moment. And yet we're just, as appreciators, we're just like, what are you talking about?
This is
a great song. It's a great album.
With or Without You was U2's first #1 hit.
Isn't that crazy too?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that song so much.
We should have used that in one of our last February episodes.
Yeah.
Dark ballad that explores the challenges and contradictions of love in both its earthly and spiritual manifestations.
Yeah, and actually it was also kind of written about Bono's experience, like trying to juggle rock stardom and marriage.
Oh.
And I think that's really interesting. Again, not something that was on my radar when I was listening to the song, but when you listen to it, through the storm we reach the shore.
You give it all, but I want more. And I wait
without you.
Is it? And I wait for you.
I think it's Without You. Anyways, With or Without You. One or the other. But what a ballad, and what a song, just talking about the challenges of a relationship, like you can't live with them, you can't live without them. The first 3 songs on this album are the 3 biggest singles off this album, right?
Are they the first 3?
Yep. It was, let's see. Yep. Where the Streets Have No Name, I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, and With or Without You.
Are they the first 3 songs?
I'm reading it off the album right now.
Huh.
Yep.
How about that?
And I think, like myself, maybe most people are only familiar with those songs because I had not heard any of the others. I don't recognize any of the others.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, this was a tape that was
On
being
repeat?
played all the time. Yeah.
That's what I was saying about the fact that I never really listened to whole albums.
Yeah.
And I know that you did
Yeah.
because that's always how you've been. But I just have never been that way. And so even with artists that we've talked about, like Chappell Roan or Post Malone, it's like, okay, I'm really curious now because he's going country, so I'm going to listen to his album, and then I listen to the whole album. But that's a new experience for me, and I don't know why I didn't do it before.
Well, now look at us introducing you to a whole new world.
A new horizon, something.
In your laptop
Yes.
of albums.
There you go.
Okay, well, before we wrap it up, I have one other memory. I
Yeah.
think we should wrap it
And
up.
I have one more song that I want to just mention.
Okay.
Do you want to mention?
No,
You mentioned One Tree Hill.
No. I'm going to probably edit all that stuff out because
Then
it's
never
a bit of a mess.
Then
We can't drink while we're doing this.
No, it's awesome.
No, it's not. We're a mess.
Well, Mike thinks it's that we're being a hot mess because we're a little tipsy. But I think it's kind of like a truth serum. I feel like it's kind of bringing out some real stuff.
Is it? I
Yeah.
can't. Okay. What was your next song?
My song was One Tree Hill. So this was a song that Bono wrote about one of their roadies who died in a motorcycle accident. And so he wrote this song and he recorded the vocals in one take because he could not get through it a second time.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And the one line that really resonates with me is "You run like a river runs to the sea." He runs like a river runs to the sea. And to me, that just feels like somebody running home, you know? So I found this song very emotional. And they didn't perform it live for a long time because he wasn't sure he could get through it.
Huh.
Yeah.
Have you watched any of the clips of U2, the old, like the vintage clips live?
No, I haven't.
You should. Do you remember seeing U2 perform live when they were younger?
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember watching them. I never saw them live, unfortunately.
No, but like when Bono performed when he was younger, he had this real presence on stage and theatricality, the way he sang and just he was just so dramatic with his performance. And I think that was something as teenagers we connected with, like we gravitated towards that.
Yep.
And
I'm totally agreeing with you. I'm like, I'm on this ride.
Yep. And thank God that is documented and we can go back to, thank God. That's a bit dramatic.
No, but I agree. Like for younger generations to be
Yeah.
able to see that.
Yeah. Do you remember when they released that album with Apple? It was released for free.
Yes.
So everyone woke up one morning and they got our U2, the latest U2 album was downloaded for free on their...
They were one of the first people to do that, I think.
Yeah. And there was a huge backlash. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Like how arrogant do you think you are to think that I want your album?
Your free album.
Yeah. But
Stupid.
I think that is also a signal of what this band's connection was when it was, in the 80s, the mid to late 80s, like how it connected with people and then how it connected in the 2000s. Like, people had evolved or things had changed and the band's relevance became maybe less.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but I just think when I think back to when I was in my teens and I think back to seeing U2 perform live, that meant something.
Yeah.
And as I've aged, I look back on that with nostalgia, but I'm not so sure if I respond the same way.
Okay, that's interesting.
It comes across a bit pompous. It comes across a bit arrogant. And again, I don't know if that's because of my experience in life. Like I've aged, I've got a little more baggage, I've seen a few more things.
Yeah.
When you're a young teenager who's, not easily influenced, but you're looking for something to grab onto that speaks to you, that kind of tells the story that you may not have the words or the capacity to tell yourself. You've got this band that is like singing the things that you can't yet articulate, but mean something to you.
And isn't it funny that I have almost the opposite reaction? Like when I was listening to their music at the time, I was just enjoying their music. And as I said before, I wasn't really digesting what the lyrics meant. So now when I listen to this album, I think, oh my God, I missed all the layers, all the important stuff, and was just enjoying the music for the momentary pleasure.
Yeah. But that's okay. So here's an interesting thing for us to explore, though. So do we need perspective to understand the meaning of, or not everybody, but is there a cohort of people who need perspective? Like they need that time, they need that life experience to be able to go, oh, that's what this song meant, or oh, this is what that music actually meant to me. I hadn't known about it when I was actually experiencing it for the first time.
I cannot speak for 7 billion people, but
What?
But I will say that for myself, this has been an interesting discovery for me as we've done these 20 episodes to discover that a lot of times I absorb music on a very shallow level. In the
I knew you were going to do that. I was about to burst out.
I can see you starting to say, like just at a pure enjoyment level. And there is nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that at all. So it has been
cathartic.
Like cathartic.
That's a bit much.
Eye-opening.
Are you saying that our podcast has been cathartic for you?
It's been revelatory for me.
Little listeners, has this podcast been revelatory and cathartic for you? All right, so I think this has been a really interesting trip down memory lane for both of us. Any of our listeners...
Mike is the one who wanted to have a drink during this, and now he's like, we shouldn't have been drinking during this. This was such a bad idea. I think it's awesome. Yeah. But what do you guys think? What do you, our little listeners, think?
If any of our listeners were teenagers in the 80s, and if anything that what we've said resonates with you in any way, please send us some messages. Tell us what you think.
And if you didn't grow up in that era, then maybe consider listening to the album. Because I would love to know what other generations who didn't live through this
wonder
moment,
what they think.
What would you think about these songs now? Maybe it doesn't resonate at all.
Yeah.
And that would be really cool too.
And ignore everything we've said in this episode.
What the fuck do we know?
What's your take on this album?
Yeah.
How would you do that?
Oh, well, you can DM us at the Little Podcast on Instagram or send us an email at Life is in the lyrics. Sorry, I'm slurring.
Have another drink.
Life is in the lyrics at gmail.com.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, thanks for listening to this episode, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Yeah. Were we too drunk, guys? Let us know.
Bye.
Bye.